So we're here with Caeden, Russ, and myself. And so first and foremost, really want to thank you for your time today, Caeden. Looking forward to interviewing you, hearing a little bit more about your story, your background. I know that we've talked before, but again, just want to dive a little bit deeper into your journey as a student athlete. But ultimately, at the very beginning, do you mind introducing yourself, sharing your name, your sport, and also the university that you attended?
Absolutely. And thank you both again for having me on today. It's really an honor and a privilege, and I always love to kind of literally give back a little bit to, both of you and also to the athletic community. And just really hope kind of that my personal experiences and story can help other people down the road. So my name is Caden Hale. I'm from Beverly, Massachusetts, where I attended Beverly High School. I was a two-sport varsity athlete, played both football and baseball, and then later on attended Springfield College, where I was the member of the football team and played offensive line from 2019 to 2023.
Looking at your time at Springfield, Caden, how did your journey as a student athlete shape you both like personally as well as athletically?
Like anything, like college, getting into the collegiate level it's a really difficult task, and it's really a difficult journey. It's not really made for everybody, and even when you get there, it's not made for everyone. You really learn to find that out. I think I really truly became invested in my sport within my junior year, where I that's when I kind of really got my shot, really got to put my name out there at my high school playing football, and started attending camps the year before, but really saw what I was up against and really invested in myself both physically and mentally, and was just bought into and determined to compete at the collegiate level. And going into Springfield, like within the summer and my senior year, going into my freshman year, that's all I could think about. The adrenaline's pumping, you're going to play college football, you're so excited, you're gonna meet all these new people. I'm just like every other young kid, having the aspirations. I want to be an All-American, I want to play, I want to make a difference. I'm really fully invested in this. And when you get to college, that's the biggest mental kind of impact you're going to have, because for the first time in probably a long time, you're going to get humbled. It's just the reality you're going to face as a freshman, and you learn it real quick. You're no longer the big fish in the small pond. Everyone's that same person. Everyone's that guy. Has that same mission. Everyone is just as good as you, and then it takes time to develop to really show how you're going to stand out. And a lot of it really comes down to mentally. I think for me, when I first came into camp, I was so shell shocked, like not understanding the playbook, like everything was so hard, demanding, like, and I was a game for it, I was up for it, but I was like, oh my God, there's times like throughout camp, I was like, I don't know if I can do this, I don't know if I can do this, I'm not getting this, I'm not learning this. The game is so much faster now, like I'm not used to this at all, and you slowly start to kind of come into your own. I think the biggest thing that I learned was embracing the suck out of it, the suck out of camp. It truly not fun, but it's the best time because you really become one with the team. You meet everyone with the team. And I think that's where you really start to develop your identity as an athlete and as a student athlete, in that mentality that it's the heart, that there's only one way. That's our motto, like within the offensive line, is that there's one way. And the one way in the and that one way is to embrace the suck, go through the fire, and come out better on the other at the end of it. And I think that was just my mentality from there on out after kind of going through all that.
So I know that you explained a lot of the, not necessarily the challenges, but the demands that go into being an athlete on campus, especially at the collegiate level. But tell me a little bit more about balancing academics as well as athletics, because you're also there to get a degree, to be a student, to attend classes, all of that good stuff as well. So, I mean, what were some strategies that you tried to use to deploy within your daily life as a student athlete to really help drive a balance between the academic responsibilities, but also the demands of being a football player?
Really, it's a lot of it is just kind of getting uncomfortable, learning to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and realizing like the areas you need improvement on. I'm not an organized person. I was never an organized person. I was never organized person when it came to studying. Like I would study the night before. I would finish a paper a night before. And I knew college was going to be a lot more rigorous, and especially like looking at, the football schedule, you only have 1 day off out of the entire week. And in that day off, you're watching film and later on that day. And you're recovering, and then it's right back to the grindstone in the afternoon. You're in football from 2 to 7 at night. And for me, I was really fortunate enough at Springfield College, and I know a lot of schools have these resources at some capacity. The biggest thing is you have to learn to advocate for yourself. You have to be able to be that your own voice, your own, and realize that I need a little bit of help. And there's no shame in that at all. So I realized I need a little bit of assistance. So I went to our academic success center, which was in the library. I sat down with what we had was an athletic coach, and her and I went down, we looked at my schedule, and we wrote out a physical schedule when I had classes, what day and time, and I would schedule everything in between that I needed to do. I need to go get breakfast at this time. I need to go get lunch at this time. I need to go see the trainer at this time. Like, I need to start doing homework at this time. If I have a test coming up, we plan out what days I would be studying and what I would be covering each of those days. So say I had I just got done with midterms. I'm in grad school now. My midterm was on Wednesday. I started studying on Thursday. I started studying each chapter every single day, doing little bits at a time. And I think that's what allowed me to become more organized. I became in a habit earlier on that when I got a homework assignment, I was doing it the day I got it assigned. So I'm ahead of the ball game. So eventually, like 1 day out of that week, I would have absolutely no school responsibilities. I can focus on my athletics and I can focus on my recovery and more importantly, focusing on myself because you can lose yourself very quickly what wrapped in around all this. And like anything, you have to practice your self-care at that point.
I know you kind of just talked about how you were advocated for yourself and how important it is for these student athletes to advocate for themselves. But how important do you believe is for these mental athletes to address this mental health issue? And why do you think it may be stopped? Some athletes may be stopped from seeking help.
I think it's like anything, as much of a society as accepting we are in mental health, we are still very much just in the building process of acceptance. It's not so much of awareness. I think we're all aware, but it's acceptance and really diving into how it affects people. And then also realizing some of the people that are actually affected and that they're not like, these false stigma, images that you may picture in your head. They're normal everyday people, just like all of us. And I think that it's even more of a big deal in athletics than people realize. And we see, collegiate and professional athletes coming out every single day about like their struggles, is because of how demanding the schedule is and how much demanding we are performance wise, academic wise. That's one thing at Springfield, and I actually loved it. Like I can't say enough about the head coach over there, Coach C, and all my other and even my positional coaches. I actually was on the phone today with my old offensive line coach, and was that they didn't accept being average and being perfect wasn't, getting straight A's all the time. It was doing the absolute best you can, giving your 100%. And for me, I did it very well in college. I think that's my 4 years where I really excelled as a student because of the support I got. But at the same time, as athletes, it's not so much the external, but it's the internal battle and our own biggest critics. As much as we get pressure from the outside and stuff like that, we really pressure ourselves even more. We pressure ourselves to be the best that we can be. We pressure ourselves to be absolutely flawless, to be perfect, to always be hungry, to never be satisfied. We are our biggest critic, and that's when we literally say, like, Tom Brady, man in the mirror, your biggest enemy is the man in the mirror, or the person in the mirror, the individual in the mirror. Is when you look at yourself, that is going to be your worst enemy. And I think that's one of the biggest things as we talk about mental health as it pertains to performance, injury, academics, being away from home, first like as a freshman, sometimes it's a lot of kids first time really being away from home and being on their own. And you're really forced to get out of your comfort zone.
To kind of piggyback off of that too, I know that there's a lot of different challenges that student athletes can face, whether it's injury, like you mentioned, being far away from family. I mean, that was me being 12 hours away from home. And for you specifically, I mean, were there any monumental challenges that you felt really shaped yourself as a student athlete? And if so, I mean, what were some of the things that you tried to do to overcome that?
To be honest, my whole entire college career was based on adversity. I think my whole life story has always been based around adversity. I was born 2 months premature. Like grew out of that. I became a great athlete in high school. I had to really work at it though in high school. I was never just you know, some of these gifted athletes is that I realized that I could be good, but I got to work that much harder. And that, one of the best pieces of advice my dad always said to me is that in high school, he's like, as a high school athlete, being the best in shape, you're going to be the best player. So I really started invested in working out and everything like that. And then I saw that translate over. And then in the college, it's being the most in tune with your mind, your body, and your spirit that makes you the best player. Being humble, well training yourself, doing all the little things you wouldn't think are doing that are make a big impact, make the difference between okay college player to a great college football player. And it never matters where you start. You could have been a walk-on. I don't care if you were a walk-on. Everyone has an opportunity to really get better and become something. I played with guys that were walk-ons that turned into, All-Americans, captains, that turned into some of the best players I've ever seen play. For me, it was my everything was based on adversity. I always felt like I had something to prove. I always did. I always had a chip on my shoulder. I always wore my heart on my sleeve. I always came in with a mission. And when in college, I know I had a mission to leave my name and to leave my name a mark on the program and as a player and be one of those All-American guys. And unfortunately, I never really got the chance to actually play. Every single year I was hurt. Freshman year, had a little bit of lingering injury, came back, ended up actually having mono, and then becoming medically redshirted because of it. It couldn't work out because my spleen was so enlarged. And then I started losing a ton of weight. I started working out again. Next thing you know, I find out I had a lingering knee injury that was misdiagnosed back in high school and I needed to get it repaired. And it was COVID. Luckily, I got repaired during COVID, but then I had to recover all through that. Next thing you know, I come back my junior year, right? I could have done some things better coming into my junior year. I fully admit that to myself and I'm not ashamed of it. I worked hard, but I could have done a lot of things better and I could have worked a lot harder. And what do you know? I blew out my left knee. Had to get surgery again. And then I struggled through some personal adversities too, loss and failure and everything, all these emotions absorbed into my head. And I thought that was it. I'm just done. I'm done. I stuck with the team. I stuck with the guys and I stuck being the best teammate I could be. And I never showed that I was struggling too much other than the ones that I was closest to. And that's when I admitted to myself, I'm struggling, but I need to make a change. Started seeing the athletic counselors. I started seeing counselors and and really started to destigmatize like the anxiety and everything that I was going through. Football's always was my outlet for anything that like was stressful in my life. And that was taken away from me. And so I'm like, now what do I do? And it's very easy. Like you can start going all like unhealthy alternatives and I think we all as athletes fall victim to that at some capacity. And like I fully admit myself I did. Then it was just like a light switch back and my spark was back. And I said to myself going into my senior year, this is it. No more. Like I'm going to play. I'm going to play. I'm going to show everyone. Like this is my determination. I'm locked in all summer. And I started to kind of go back to my old me. I started hanging around with my old friends from home again. I had my friends from home that I trained with going into college. They were all by my side. My personal trainer from home, Tad Biker, he in Epic Fitness is just kind of on pause right now, but I couldn't and Coach Fight from Springfield and Tim Christensen and my old line coach and I had all these people in my corner, so I owed it to them for sticking behind me, but I owed it to myself because, you guys ever seen the movie Bronx Tale? When he says there's nothing worse than wasted talent? That's what always stuck in my head. Well, there's nothing worse than wasted talent. And I knew I had so much left in me. I knew it. I knew it was not my time to stop. And for that whole summer, I literally dropped like a crap ton of weight. I think, I want to say, I think I dropped like 60 pounds. Kid you not. And I clean bulked it back up. I got bigger. I was the biggest, fastest, strongest. I ever was. Maybe not the entire fastest because of two knee surgeries, but I was doing things with two knee surgeries like my PTs couldn't even believe I was doing. Like I got to a point I didn't even need knee braces when I was playing anymore. They're like, your quads, everything is so built up strong. I reinvested in myself, cleaned up my diet, made sure I kept track of everything I ate. And I made sure I took even my vitamins every single day, made sure I had my vitamin D, my vitamin C, everything. And I treated my body like it was my temple. And the most importantly is I learned one of the biggest things I think I learned at Springfield is we had this coach, Coach Bradley, and he always gave these amazing speeches and words of wisdom. And really, our biggest motto at Springfield College is, we're developing better players, better brothers, and better men. And one thing about being a man is that he said one of his rules were learning to let go. And for me, it was to learn to let go of the past. That wasn't me anymore. It's my time to create somebody new. And I just reinvented myself and I came in best shape I was in all 4 years I was at Springfield, strongest I've ever been. I was ready. I was ready to play. And then next thing you know, another injury. I was down on the ground from a concussion. I was, unconscious. And it was a long road recovery coming back from that. I missed a lot of school. I had to gain my memory back. It was awful. It was awful. I'd rather have had knee surgery again, to be honest. I was like, and, coming to that decision that I couldn't play football anymore because, they sort of like, if you get major hit again, like, we don't know what's going to happen to you. I was like, I can't, after all, we are student athletes. I'm not going to the NFL. I'm not making millions of dollars in the pros. So I got to focus on what I want for my career. And I was, it was hard. It was the hardest decision, and it was a little bit easier because it was basically made for me. The athletic trainers, Dave, who who is now at Merrimack, and he said, I only can watch you so much, take so much beating and come back so much. And this is when I gotta say no. I was like, Dave, I was actually gonna say the same thing, but I stayed with the team. Woke up for every workout. I went to every film session. I went to every practice. I went to every meeting. I never left the team because the bond you form with that type of culture around you when you go through all that, and especially at Springfield, like I always tell people, it's like the military. I swear to God, we could have all gone through basic training together if we really wanted to, and we would have made out just fine. But I loved it because I gained friends, I gained family and connections that I'll cherish for the rest of my life. That made me big, that made me stronger than I ever thought I could be, that made me more inspired than I ever thought I could be.